Welcome back to GBGuns. Continuation of Wonderfully Different. Going to be talking about an AR build using some wonderfully different parts. And first things first, this one's for you, Frank. Super smooth shooting. Going to talk about what all went into making this that smooth coming up next. So this is a build that I did a while back, wanting to take advantage of some of the nicer, refined pieces of AR equipment out there that I could get my hands on. A lot of it came from Patriot Ordnance Factory, which, as you may or may not know, the week that this is being filmed, Frank DeSoma was taken from us in a tragic car accident. The man had some brilliance and had some drive, created a lot of very different parts, some of which went into here. I was just speaking to him on Wednesday, 3 days ago, about it, and one of the challenges is, aside from some style cues, not much on this AR looks that different, but it really is. I have an article on this build already and a complete video, but to go over real quickly what the components are on this, starting at the tip, we have a titanium muzzle brake from Vendetta Precision. If you've never tried titanium as a muzzle device, I highly recommend it. That weight has a lot of leverage on the gun while you're wielding it, maneuvering, things like that. And so shaving a few ounces off the tip makes the gun handle a whole lot nicer. This handguard is Patriot Ordnance Factory's own, which leaves a nice window for the Dictator, for DI, adjustable gas block. This gas block has multiple settings, and on this particular gun and on another gun that I've used it on, able to adjust to the point that 5.56 will run but 2.23 won't, and just one click back and forth, and that makes for really soft shooting. This foregrip is also Vendetta Precision. It's an aluminum piece. Coming back, the barrel itself is also Patriot Ordnance Factory. It has their E squared. That's a fluted chamber, much like the G3 or MP5, except the concept here is the gases push around the brass and help push the brass out to reduce the chances of a stuck casing. Muzzle nut, also Patriot Ordnance Factory. You might notice it's got fins in there like a heat sink. Simple brilliance. Made out of aluminum, it helps shed heat. So what's traditionally one of the hottest, toughest spots on your gun is now one of the cooler. Upper receiver is from Bootleg Inc. That nice flush, smooth ejection port cover is out of V7 weapons. It's lightweight. I just think it looks beautiful. This bolt carrier group is the LMT Enhanced. I also have an article explaining what makes that different. The lower receiver, you might notice we've got full ambi controls, meaning I can lock the bolt to the rear without having to hold the gun funny, and I can drop the bolt all with the trigger finger. Great spot. That's American Defense Manufacturing. More primary weapon systems with a ratchet and castle nut and end, and just a Blackhawk stock on it. It was a fun build. Doesn't look too fancy, but man is it smooth. So why did I build this? Well, I wanted to try to take advantage of some of the fancy aftermarket improvements that are out there and options from companies that I just couldn't afford a full gun from. I mean, Patriot Ordnance Factory isn't cheap, American Defense Manufacturing isn't cheap, but I could piece it together and build this thing and get some of that attention to detail. For example, underneath the handguard here, there's a born-on date and a number code. That is on pretty much everything Patriot Ordnance Factory makes, that they do make there at the facility. They're not an assembler like a lot of AR companies are. I've been there, I've seen it. That born-on date and code is logged, very ISO 9001 style, and if there's ever reports of issues, they can go back and figure out where the materials were sourced from, what machines were running, who was working that day. They've got a full back history of how that part came to be. So pretty cool. That with this ADM lower and these other pieces, makes it pretty smooth as you saw. And I do want to show you the flutes on that brass. We're looking at the neck here, and you see those lines. There's 4 of them. That's where gas is jetting to push on this shoulder and help use this shoulder to ensure reliable extraction. Now what do you say we watch Miss Tia do some ready ups and get her opinion on this, since she's not as invested in this gun as I am.
Safety. Oh, wait. That's fun. I don't know if it was on camera, but we had a malfunction, and I was able to use the ambi controls so that I was able to pull my charging handle back to the rear, locking the bolt open with this hand. Made it much easier than switching arms and all of that like I would normally be used to. So those ambi controls are super fun, and I appreciate them in that they're very minimal, so you're not going to confuse them for what is a normal part of any AR. You know, that mag release, you're not going to confuse that, nor would you on the other side, because it also is reduced and slim, not interfering with your normal controls. This thing is so smooth to shoot. Made doing those ready ups and pulling a few fast shots really fun.
So I hope this little quick demo showed you some of the wonderfully different AR parts out there that are actually different, and what happens when you put them all together. Now, as those of you that follow the channel know, not all custom builds work out perfectly, especially once you start drifting from what was mil-spec and the other part was meant for mil-spec, and it had a couple thousands of tolerance room and the other one had a couple thousands of tolerance room. Those stacking tolerances can lead to nightmares. This setup though runs and is really nice, and although none of it was budget, I mean it's all fairly, I guess the least expensive thing on here would maybe be the Vendetta brake and grip. Those are fairly reasonable, but it's because you're paying for innovation and you're paying for stuff that had to be made, not just cranked out at the mass factory where they sell all the receivers, all the barrels, and all the bolt parts that everybody uses in the mainstream. Stuff that required new engineering and new solutions. So mad respect for the folks who have gone out and done that, and the results are quite enjoyable. Hope this inspires you to take a look at some of these companies. There is an article and a video on this build if you want to see more up close. Thanks for watching.